All right, we are pleased to talk Bengals tonight with James Rapien of Sports Illustrated and allbengals.com. That all Bengals basically means that anything Bengals, all Bengals, he posts, he writes stories about, and all of his helpers on that website, they do a great job. But James, I want to start off right away talking about hashtag Golladay. Kenny Golladay reportedly got 4 years, $72 million with the Giants. In your mind, could the Bengals have come anywhere close to that? It sounds like they maybe couldn't have.
No, it's unrealistic. They weren't in the let's pay a wide receiver one money for long term, right? And I think that's how they got into the Golladay sweepstakes to begin with is, oh man, the wide receiver market's this down? Well, let's try to steal him, because he only played in 5 games last year, was dinged up for most of the year. And he is a Pro Bowler, and he is a high-end, borderline wide receiver one type guy. So if you can steal him for a year, why not do it? But I'm not crushing him because they couldn't get it done. And ultimately, the Giants, they paid above market value for a guy that the Bengals were trying to get below market value.
I do want to ask this, though, before we say goodnight on Kenny Golladay, with him now to the Giants. What other free agent wide receivers might be out there that the Bengals could be looking for if they want to go that route?
So guys that are still available that I would consider, and I think they will, 2 of them have ties to Zach Taylor. Josh Reynolds, I think a lot of Bengals fans have made that connection. He played for the Rams, was drafted by them 4 years ago. They're letting him go. My only thing with signing Reynolds, and I'm okay with it, but this idea that he's a speed threat or this downfield threat, which was what the Bengals are looking for, he's not that, because the Rams are looking for that. Sean McVay's looking for that right now. And guess what? They're letting him go in free agency potentially. So clearly they don't view him that way. But signing Reynolds to be your 4th wide receiver, I'm okay with that. And then another guy to keep an eye on, Sammy Watkins. I think this is, you want to talk about a 1-year prove it type deal, guy who does have an injury history, but maybe you get him for $4 million. I think Sammy Watkins, a former 1st-round pick, certainly contributed to the Chiefs' Super Bowl run in 2019, was with the Rams when Zach Taylor was there as well. And then another guy, speaking of Chiefs, Demarcus Robinson, can stretch the field. I think that's another guy that could be on their radar. But now you're talking about a 3rd and 4th tier type wide receiver, not a tier 1 guy like Kenny Golladay. So, and that's okay that they didn't get a tier 1 wide receiver. I do think adding another experienced wide receiver, I think, is something that they'll try to do over the next week or 2.
Whether or not, James, the Bengals do get another experienced wide receiver in that room before the draft, I am 100%, and I'm going to get backlash for this, I am 100% against drafting an offensive lineman with that 5th pick or wherever it might be. And I know not everyone is there. I just think that is a high pick to make on an offensive lineman. They did it somewhere in that ballpark. I think it was 11 with Jonah Williams a couple of years ago, and we'll see how that plays out. But to go take an offensive lineman that high, the risk-reward, man, I don't know. I like to take that shot on a wide receiver. That's where I stand, a guy like Jamar Chase. What do you think?
I probably would guess, and this is a guess, that Joe Burrow would, if he had to pick, he would bet on Jamar Chase, and he would want Jamar Chase at 5 over Penei Sewell. I know a lot of fans don't feel that way, and it's the other way. But the thing here, and this is maybe the most important thing, there's 7 rounds, right? It's a deep offensive line draft. And is Jamar Chase going to make Joe Burrow's life easier? And then they can find an offensive lineman that's much closer, or at least close-ish to what Sewell will give them over the first couple years of his career with the 38th pick in round 2, or maybe the 69th pick in round 3. You sign Riley Reef so you don't have to go offensive line early. You don't have to reach. So I like that. But to me, Sewell or Chase, I love both. At the same time, you can make the argument for Pitts. You can make the argument for Waddle. There are a lot of guys out there. In ultimately, I think we can all agree it should be an offensive player, probably one of those skill guys if it's not Penei Sewell.
They are getting Trey Waynes back. They're getting DJ Reader back. And I think people sometimes forget they're adding that kind of talent back into the mix. So, yeah, losing William Jackson is big. Losing Carl Lawson is big. They certainly replaced them. I don't know if they replaced them with guys who are as good, but they replaced it with depth, and they're bringing in some difference makers from last year. So there has to be some optimism, I would think, James, adding new pieces and then bringing in the pieces who were hurt last year, that the defense could be better.
No, they should be better. And part of it is because of Reader and Waynes. And don't downplay the identity part of this. And I asked Lou Anarumo about this because to me, I don't think that, these guys, Mike Hilton, I don't think he's the best cover guy in the world, but he's going to hit you. He's going to make plays. They can help him or he can help get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So I like that. I like the physicality he's going to bring alongside Von Bell. And you have the best and probably most underrated safety in the league in Jesse Bates, who can help hide some of those coverage flaws. So all three corners that they have are going to be hard hitting. I think they're going to tackle well. And so we'll see if they can accomplish that. But I do think that they're going to add probably one or two more pieces in free agency, a defensive tackle, certainly a defensive end. And not that they're going to spend big money on these guys, but rotational pieces to kind of shore that unit up and those units up before the draft.
We've gone this entire time without talking much about Joe Burrow. You can tell a lot about the alpha in the room by how he orders his steak. So we'll finish with this final thought. And I have a thought on Joe Burrow. James, how do you like your steak done?
Medium.
Medium?
Medium well.
Yes.
Somehow that fits right into my personality, doesn't it?
It's perfect. And Joe Burrow, medium rare. He is the alpha in the room, I have no doubt. Takes a
what
lot
about
to
you,
get
Jeremy?
a medium rare. What's that?
What about you?
I'm medium, just like you.
Oh, you're medium. Okay.
Medium.
Yeah, I'm either medium rare or medium. I'm definitely not a medium well.
Okay.
Come on, Joe.
I just want to make sure I'm not getting sick.
It does say a lot about who you are, the way you order a steak. I love it. I wanted you to say medium well, and you did.
Of course.
James Rapien of allbengals.com and Sports Illustrated joining us on Sports Wrap. He is one of the best. Thanks, James.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.